Welcome to From the AD's View. I'm your host, Dr. Cedric Brown. On today's show, we're going to talk about sports, education, entertainment, family, and faith, and how those things together or separately can impact our lives. Let's get it. Welcome back to the show. Before I get started, like I do every episode, I'd like to give honor to God, who's the head of my life, and thank him because without him, none of the things that I do are possible, not as a husband, not as a father, not as a professional. So I want to always put him first and thank him. Last week, we had an outstanding pioneer in our women's athletics, intercollegiate athletics, a part of the industry, Miss Marie Tuitt. She's our deputy director of athletics here at Southern Utah. And I just wanted to, again, thank her for her mentorship, her friendship, and the professionalism that she has given to me as a up and coming athletics administrator here. And if you haven't been able to see episodes of From the AD's View, we do those episodes in repeat. If you go on to my LinkedIn page at Cedric M. Brown, PhD, on my LinkedIn page, you can get those previous episodes. The show will be in hiatus after this week up until until early September. But fear not, From the AD's View will be back in September. And during that hiatus, we will be running previous shows at 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern on Sunday evening. So if you haven't been able to see previous shows, you will be able to do that. And that's thanks to Leon Thomas and the Leon Thomas Group. Now, without further ado, let's bring on a very special guest that we have. This young man is Mr. George L. Bright. He was the inaugural 24 member of the NCAA Leadership Academy, athletics administrator at South Carolina State University, Lafayette College, Moravian University, Elizabeth State. He's currently the director of athletics, deputy director of athletics at Bethune-Cookman. He was an adjunct professor at East Stroudsburg University and Sports Administrative Management Institute executive program at Notre Dame and the University of South Carolina. And he is a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Please welcome Mr. George L. Bright. George, how are you, sir?
Dr. Brown, it's a pleasure to be with you tonight. I'm really excited about our conversation and how and where this can go. I know you emphasized a few things, but again, I'm a man of faith and a man of God as well.
Absolutely.
And my prayers right before our podcast, I just wanted to make sure that we're aligned together, and we certainly are, because Absolutely. Without God, nothing is impossible.
Nothing. Today in our church service, George, we were discussing, how God uses individuals in different scenarios and different purposes, right? And how Jesus was not only he didn't only preach, he taught, right? And at certain times, Jesus would in a sense, come out of the pulpit and sit amongst, the congregation and then teach so they can talk to him and ask him questions and things like that. And as athletic administrators, we are similar in that we coach coaches, right? And we help the coaches coach the student athletes. And at the same time, we welcome the student athletes to come and sit down and get some of that tutelage from us. So, what has your experience as an athletics administrator been, George, with the mentoring and the tutelage and the role modeling of student athletes during your career?
I've always had the opportunity to really focus on meeting student athletes where they are. Now, over the course of the short 30 plus years that I've been an administrator, where we are now is, of course, working with our student athletes on making sure that their mental health and their mental health awareness is on point, and providing resources, opportunities, conversations, and helping them through situations to become the best athlete that they can possibly be at that time. So progressively, it's just trying to make sure that that student athlete has a high level academic and a high level athletic experience while we're there.
Yes, sir. And we talk about that a lot in our senior leadership meetings,
Yes,
we our institutions share a something in common in reimagining. Right.
yes, yes,
As I looked on your website, Bethune Cookman is going through a process, or is continuing a process of
yes.
reimagining how how student athletes and students can go through their career. And as our team shows that on in view here, strategic planning, reimagining, now, next, and beyond. Can you talk a little bit about the process that Bethune Cookman is going through right now? As I believe that you are going through the process of new leadership of the university and things like that. Can you talk about that reimagining campaign?
Oh, absolutely. And that campaign is paramount to our success. And what's happening underneath that campaign, again, as you alluded to, is the search for a new leader, new president. And that's certainly underway. Over the course of the last few years, there have been a series of interim and acting presidents, but the panel, the search committee, is looking for that leader that's going to take us into our next journey, so to speak. But how does that fit athletically? Well, under our director of athletics, who is Reggie Theus, we're
Yes.
creating this championship culture. Some may recognize that name. Reggie was certainly an NBA All-Star and is doing some great things in that regard. But what we've done is we've developed a philosophy on building that championship culture under the umbrella of reimagining that you're talking about. And that philosophy is very simple. It's, as I talked about before, is to embrace and to lead and to enhance and to maintain the athletics program, and making sure that we're providing a high level, holistic, exceptional academic and athletic experience for our student athletes. Of course, we want to exhibit operational accountability, character, and integrity at the highest level, and then provide for our student athletes that opportunity to compete for conference championships and postseason opportunities. Now, that overall focus is certainly centered on inspiring student athletes, again, to become the greatest form of themselves. So that's that. So I've answered you in two phases: what the
Yes, sir.
university is talking about, and of course, what the athletics department is talking about under that reimagining umbrella.
Yes, sir. And as you talk about historic and foundational individuals, and I believe we have a photo of the founder, Miss Mary McLeod Bethune, and what is it like being in a program at a university that's so historic? And as you see your founder there, Miss Mary McLeod Bethune, what is that like for you, George?
If you read what she has there, and if you don't mind, I'll leave it on the screen for a second, and I'll read
Sure.
it for those that might be moving a little bit. Her message to us is that I leave you love, I leave you hope, I leave you the challenge of developing confidence in one another. I leave you respect for the use of power. I leave you faith. I leave you racial dignity. Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune. Now, Dr. said, listen, going on our campus, my very first day there almost a year ago, you
Yes,
could
sir.
feel her spirit on campus. You could feel how she is just surrounded and how she cared for young women, and of course, then later on men, and how she built it from nothing. The campus sits on grounds that people were throwing away, if you will, and she built the university, the legacy within Daytona Beach. I just happened to be in Washington, D.C. last weekend and went into, of course, the African American Museum. And there's a huge feature on Dr. Bethune there. And it just really speaks to the spirit of her leadership, her character, her integrity, and how she does and provided love for a group that might not have had an opportunity to move forward. She fought and continues to provide paths for us to fight for faith and racial dignity. One of the exciting things, you're a man of faith and so am I, one of the very exciting things that, just makes me feel good, but more than that, it just really shows the power of prayer, is that for most of our staff meetings, not just athletically, but throughout campus, most of our large events, it starts with prayer.
Prayer.
That's
Absolutely.
different for me. All right. That might be different for your experience too, but that's different for me. And I'm pleased with it. It's really exciting to be able to not be ashamed. All right. If you
Yes,
will,
sir.
of promoting the goodness of God. So
Absolutely.
that legacy is tremendous. You walk by her house that's on campus, and it just, you can feel the spirit of Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune just coming through campus.
Yes, sir. And I understand that, because being here in the state of Utah, a very big state of faith here, and like you said, not afraid to express faith here in a very uh, you know in a great way,
Yes.
right? I can say that. And so here's a question that most of the viewers,
Sure.
may need some clarity on.
Yes.
As you have worked both in PWIs, predominantly white universities, and now you're working in historically black at a historically black university. George, what are some of the myths of HBCUs that we all need to help to have a better understanding about?
Well, we'll answer it as myths, maybe challenges, maybe some opportunities. But again, what I want to make sure that's absolutely clear to all of your listeners is that we have, and all HBCUs have, a terrific group of students. What has happened over time is that you have to go through the history of where and why an HBCU was established. Years ago, we don't have to get too deeply into this, but years ago, HBUs were established because people of color, primarily African American, could not go to our predominantly white schools, or the structure of getting in was significantly high, and the standards were different. So HBCUs were built not just on education, but built on creating the whole person, so our students of color could be successful in those environments, both academically and, of course, in our world, athletically. It's not mutually exclusive, but it is synergetic. And what I mean by that is the HBCU experience has been promoted even more now, where it's not just going to class and going to school and going to do different things. Most HBCUs do promote and actually have a family environment on campus.
Absolutely.
Where the student can be a whole student, can be free to see others that might look like them. But one of the things that I just want to make sure that we're clear on is, at the school prior to Bethune-Cookman University, this number actually, opened our eyes, where although it was an HBCU, the minority enrollment at an HBCU was close to 30%. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So understand that dynamic and vibe when that's what's happening, I think, at most of our HBCUs now, where, you would not think that the minority, meaning,
Yep. Our brothers and sisters that are Caucasian or
yes,
things
yes,
like that. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
where that percentage of student enrollment is, I think, higher than most people might want to anticipate, and faculty and staff, and the diversity, if you will, of the entire community. So, My wife and I joke about this. When I was at Lafayette College, and then of course Moravian, and of course East Stroudsburg, and my experiences there, and schooling at Temple and East Stroudsburg, just different places. Along as I was maturing in my time there, I said, I think God's going to move me into an HBCU, on the back nine, if you will, of my career. And here we are, Cedric.
Right. Be careful what you talk about.
Because what the conversation that we had at that point was, let's take this information, this communication, this knowledge that may have been gained at all of those places and help our schools along the way. And I am a helper. I am a servant. I am a person that wants to see people succeed. Could I go work at any institution across the United States? I feel that I can.
Absolutely.
Right? But my choice is to be here to help our students that might not have had an opportunity, or for those that might even need a second chance and somebody to kind of go to bat for them in different worlds where I might have experience. I think that's important too. So the myth between the two, resources are probably not a myth. It's probably a very strong fact that if you were to align an HBCU in a state next to a PWI in the state, you're going to find probably more times than not that the PWI has more access and more resource.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And has the ability to create more resource and access through its alumni channels and giving and things like that. And I'll say one more thing and then I'll move forward. HBCUs were graduating nurses and teachers, while PWIs were graduating, this is years ago, were graduating, engineers and doctors and lawyers.
Yes, sir.
So the ability to give back, for those groups to give back, you can see a disparity in that action too. So kind of keep that in mind as well.
Absolutely. And, as you talk about, and before we go to break, as you talked about, the access that Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune gave, people talk about diversity, equity, inclusion right now, right?
Right. Yes.
But her vision was diversity, equity, and inclusion when she started it, right? And so that work is perpetual, ongoing. And it was that inertia. There has to be a starting point. That starting point was back there when Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune.
And I'm sure she ran into adversity. I'm sure she ran into a lot of no's and a very few yeses. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Or maybes. But she did not allow for that to bring her down. She stood up with folks that would help. You can see, her reach was tremendous. And certainly we're living in the fruits of our labor at this time.
Absolutely. And now we are definitely standing on shoulders. George, stay with us, right? We're going to go to a short break. And when we come back, we have a lot of other topics to speak about.
Looking forward.
Absolutely. You're watching From the AD's View with your host, Dr. Cedric Brown. We will be right back after this break.
Renting is everything. It's style at your doorstep, off the runway and into your closet. It's every trend you've been dying to try and every designer you've yet to discover. It's wearing it your way every time and making it count everywhere you go. It's never worrying about what to wear, because something new is always coming your way. That's why renting is everything. New styles, top designers, all for a flat monthly fee. Start your subscription at renttherunway.com.
Slow roasted over hickory fire and pulled by hand. This is the way pit pork has always been done. Pulled pork lovers, rejoice. The smoky old days are back at the Smoke Shack. From the creative team that brought you The Browning Project and Dead by Morning comes a new thriller that will change the way you look at white-collar crime forever. Falling from the Sky.
Water. It's everywhere. We drink it, we bathe with it, we cook with it. Coffee's made with water. Toilets won't flush without it. It's used for washing clothes, dishes, utensils, pots, pans, floors, and our teeth. Plants and crops need water, animals drink it, and fish need it too. And don't forget, we can have a lot of fun in the water. Water. What would we do without it?
I'm Leon Thomas with the Leon Thomas Group. Podcast, virtual events, webinars, streaming shows, and so much more. We want to be your partner in all things virtual.
Welcome back. You're watching From the 80s View. I'm your host, Dr. Cedric Brown. Be sure to catch us each Sunday evening at 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern for more open and honest discussions from the 80s View. If you'd like to get in contact with me, you can reach me on social media on my LinkedIn page at Cedric M. Brown, PhD. If there's any questions that you have, you can reach me there. And as I said earlier in the show, we're going on a brief hiatus after this week up until September, but we will be running previous shows at 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern. So you can catch us on those. Let's bring back Mr. George Bright. Let's bring him back. George, when we left going into the break, we were talking about the absolute positivity that HBCUs bring to not only academia, but also to intercollegiate athletics. And I had the privilege and have the privilege of knowing Mr. Travis Williams, the former men's basketball coach, the founder and CEO of HBCU All-Stars. Can you give me your perspective, George? How has that helped the awareness of the HBCU student athlete, in particular in that particular sport, but overall, how has that helped?
Tremendous help. You know, just this past weekend, MLB stepped up and had their HBCU All-Stars. You're seeing it at many different levels, and we're certainly thankful for Travis for kind of showcasing and getting that moving. But I think you'll begin to see that platform in several sports as well. You know, and even in some of our Olympic sports, you know, if of course track and field, but sports like bowling and others where there's such terrific competition in our conference and even in the MEAC and CIAA and SIAC, you know, all those HBCU conferences, you're going to see, you know, coverage. You're going to see broadcasts. I think you're seeing every school step up their ability to stream and to put on a very good product. So all of those things are happening, but we're thankful for Travis Williams and many others for embracing, if you will, the HBCU experience and bringing it forward. I want to also thank a group that we just had an agreement with called Playfly. Playfly is a corporate sponsor group that goes out to get corporate sponsors, and they reached out to us to try to embark on a relationship. And we're one of 10 HBCUs that they've actually embraced and want to help promote. So just a small, sorry, Cedric, but a small thank you to Playfly for helping us get through those moments as well.
That's why we're here. That is exactly why we're here. It
will take a lot of effort. HBCUs aren't new. All right. We've been around for decades, years, centuries, but we do appreciate the partnerships that are happening. And even in places like Southern Utah, I mean, there's an opportunity to embrace and partner with an HBCU somewhere.
Absolutely.
That's something that should be happening if it's not now.
Absolutely. And I know that things are done for a reason,
Yes.
right? And as LinkedIn has been a divine collaboration intervention for me, right? That's how I met Mr. Leon Thomas of the Leon Thomas Group, and that's how this podcast has begun and is thriving because of individuals like yourself that have been in the business for a long period of time, have experienced many things, and have a wealth of information and knowledge to offer to listeners, and hopefully the nuggets that we leave here are things that they can take with them as they go on.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. And so the Supreme Court came back last week, and a devastating blow with affirmative action. That decision. How do you, if you believe, how will that influence intercollegiate athletics? And then, obviously, you being working both in PWIs and HBCUs, do you see that there's going to be an impact on HBCUs because of this decision?
Well, I try to look at things in a positive way and try to find the good out of all of it.
Yes, sir.
And I want to say this. I hopefully it just boils down to them requiring universities to remove the identification box where you're checking white, black, whatever
Asian.
the others might
Yes, sir.
be.
Yep.
Just removing that box off of admission standards. If it gets to that point, we're okay. I also think too that what will happen if it's more than that, again, on the positive side, on the side of Job, so to speak,
Absolutely.
my good friend of faith, on the side, what we're going to do is, although we'll take this hit, we're going to, it'll be better. It'll be okay. And the reason why I say that is that, from a resiliency standpoint, people will be able to identify what their struggle might be if, inside the content of the communication that they provide for that institution.
Sure.
For example, the 500 word document that they might have to provide to admissions or when they approach campus. So again, we can take this as a small kick, but we're resilient. The universities are resilient. Even PWIs that are still looking to enhance their DEI performance are going to be resilient.
Absolutely.
I don't think yes, the shock of the announcement certainly puts us back, but if you read a little bit deeper, if your listeners want to read a little bit deeper into it, I think it just gets to that admission standard of either making race an optional check or just removing race
it altogether.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
And here at SUU, our president, Miss Mindy Benson, and our leadership team are uberly focused on having the best opportunities for students.
Yes.
Right. And that is what drew me to being a part of SUU. And I agree with you. If we can get to that one specific component, right, and we just take that out of there, and then you're looking at an individual based on his or her ability to perform academically, then we're in a much better place.
We're okay.
We're in a much better place.
But if you read the headline, there's sticker shock with it. Okay.
Right.
There's an, oh my God, we're back 60 years, whatever. But I think, if again, maybe it's just me being too energetic and me being too optimistic. But if it gets down to that, I think, that becomes the voice of reason for all of us. it can work, it can happen, and it might even move forward into other applications as well, not just admissions for, into collegiate activity or collegiate academic side, but it could move into, you know, uh, other positions, not non-academic scenarios,
Yes,
all
sir.
job applications that currently ask, "What is your race?" It just goes away. Okay,
Absolutely.
all right,
Absolutely. So we can just get the best quality
so we get out.
individuals, him or her, for
Right,
those roles,
right.
or for admissions to institution of higher learning.
That's
Um,
great.
as we wrap up, as I
Mhm.
ask each of my guests at the end of the show, um, George, how has faith and or spiritualness impacted your life?
We have conversations offline and now even publicly. Faith has been, without God, nothing could happen for me. God is first in my life. You can look at Matthew 6:33. You can see that God is first. I seek God first. God has done exceeding abundantly above all that I can even ask or think. God has blessed me with a terrific wife who stands behind me, stands with me, stands in front of me. I am blessed with two wonderful children and even a grandbaby, a wonderful family, you know, uh, and I lay that all at God's feet in thanks and in prayer every day, every morning and every evening, just saying thank you, Lord, for bringing me to this position. Now I know that the good Lord is closed doors that I thought should stay open and open doors that I had no idea that were even
Absolutely.
there. But I certainly walk with God and His Son Jesus, and I'm so thankful for the Holy Spirit that brings comfort and peace, and the Word that certainly provides instruction in our lives. So
Well,
God is
we appreciate that about you, George, and welcome that here on From the AD's View at any given time. George, if anyone would like to get in contact with you, I
yes,
believe we can display it on the bottom of the screen. Can you tell them how they can get in contact with you, please?
absolutely. All socials, if you will. I'm on Twitter, Facebook. I don't think my TikTok account is public, but certainly on Twitter. But by email is best. brightg@cookman.edu, and certainly I'll pick it up from there. We'll have that conversation. Again, I'm very thankful for the opportunity to speak with you. You've got a great team, Dr. Brown, and I'm really excited about the opportunity. Let's not let this be the last one.
Never, never, never. But even when we close the show, George, stay in the studio. Stay
Okay.
in the green room, and we'll talk a little bit more
Okay.
after this. But I want to thank you, sir, for your time, for your knowledge, for your faith nuggets.
Yes.
I thank you for all of the above, and look forward to a collaboration down the road with you and I personally. And if there's some things that I can do with Southern Utah to collaborate with Bethune-Cookman University,
Terrific.
please let me know, and
Let's
and
talk
and, and
about
I'll
it.
do my
I
best.
think there's a great opportunity, whether it's, I don't know. There's so many opportunities there. Let's figure it out.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Let's
sir.
figure it
Well, thank you.
out. Okay.
I'd like to thank today's guest, Mr. George L. Bright, Deputy Director of Athletics at Bethune-Cookman University. It was a welcome and an honor for having him on today's show. Don't forget to tune in each Sunday evening at 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern for more open and honest discussions from the AD's view. Good night and God bless.